The real estate agent handed me the check with a sympathetic smile. $340,000. The sale of my 3-bedroom Craftsman in Portland, Oregon, the house I'd saved for 5 years to buy, the house I'd renovated myself, the house where I'd planned to build my life. Now it was gone. Sold in 3 weeks to the first cash buyer who'd made an offer, because my mother was dying and insurance wouldn't cover the experimental treatment that might save her life. "Are you sure about this?" the agent, Michelle, asked quietly. We were sitting in her office, paperwork spread across the desk. "Once you sign, there's no going back." I signed. My mother has stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The clinical trial at Johns Hopkins is her only chance. It costs $280,000 out of pocket. I'm sure. My name is Harper Wells, and I'm 34 years old. For the past 8 years, I'd worked as a nurse practitioner in Portland, living modestly, saving aggressively, building toward a future. I'd bought my house at 29, a fixer-upper in a decent neighborhood that I'd slowly transformed through weekends of DIY renovations. It had been my pride and joy. My achievement. Proof that I could build something stable and real. And I just sold it to save my mother's life. The diagnosis had come 4 months ago. Mom, vibrant and healthy at 62, started having stomach pains and rapid weight loss. By the time they found the cancer, it had already spread. Stage 4. 6 months to live, maybe, with standard treatment. But there was a clinical trial. Cutting-edge immunotherapy combined with targeted radiation. Johns Hopkins. The survival rate was promising, 40% of patients going into remission, another 30% gaining significant additional time. The problem? Insurance called it experimental and refused to cover it. The cost, $280,000 for the full treatment protocol. My mother and father had $43,000 in savings. My brother Cameron had $8,000. I had $62,000 in savings and a house worth $340,000. We'd held a family meeting in my parents' living room, all of us trying to figure out how to come up with the money. We could take out loans, my father had suggested, but the numbers didn't work. They were both retired, living on Social Security and modest pensions. No bank would give them enough credit. I could ask my firm for an advance, Cameron had offered. He was a mid-level account manager at a marketing agency, making decent money but not enough to cover this kind of expense. I'd sat there doing the math. $280,000 needed. $113,000 available between all of us. Still $167,000 short. Unless I sold my house. "I can do it," I'd said quietly. "I can sell the house. The market's good right now. I should be able to get $340,000, maybe more. After paying off the mortgage and closing costs, I'd have about $220,000. Combined with what we already have, that covers the treatment." My mother had started crying immediately. "Harper, no. That's your home. You worked so hard. Mom, you're more important than a house. We'll figure it out. You get the treatment, you beat this cancer, and I'll rebuild. I'm young. I have time. You don't." My father had looked at me with something like awe. "Harper, that's an incredible sacrifice." Cameron had nodded, looking relieved. "If there was any other way." "There isn't," I'd said firmly. "So let's not waste time feeling guilty. Let's focus on getting Mom healthy." That had been 6 weeks ago. Now, sitting in the real estate office with a check for $340,000, I felt the weight of what I'd done settle over me. I'd given up my security, my stability, my carefully built future, for a chance that my mother might survive. It was worth it. Of course it was worth it. But it hurt more than I'd expected. "What will you do now?" Michelle asked as I stood to leave. "Move into a rental. There's a studio apartment near the hospital that's available. Small, but it's close to work and I don't need much space. And if the treatment works? Then my mom lives. That's all that matters." I deposited the check, immediately transferred $220,000 to the Johns Hopkins payment account, and watched my life savings, everything I'd built over a decade of hard work, disappear in seconds. 2 days later, my mother flew to Baltimore with my father. The treatment would take 4 months, intensive, exhausting, requiring them to stay near the hospital the entire time. My father had found a long-term rental apartment near Johns Hopkins. They'd be gone until late December. I helped them pack, drove them to the airport, hugged my mother tight. "Thank you," she whispered in my ear. "I know what you gave up for this. I won't forget it. Just focus on getting better," I told her. "That's all I need." Cameron had come to the airport too. As we watched our parents go through security, he turned to me. "You're incredible, you know that? I couldn't have done what you did." "Yes, you could have," I said. "If you'd had a house to sell. I just had the asset that could cover it." "Still. You didn't have to. But you did." He hugged me. "When Mom beats this, we'll throw the biggest celebration. And I'll help you however I can to get back on your feet." "I appreciate that." The treatment began. Every week, my mother would call with updates. The immunotherapy was brutal, nausea, fatigue, pain. But she was fighting. And remarkably, within 6 weeks, the scans showed the tumor shrinking. 8 weeks in, significant reduction in tumor size. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. 12 weeks in, borderline remission. They were extending the treatment, pushing for complete remission. 16 weeks in, just before Thanksgiving, complete remission. The cancer was gone. All of it. My mother had beaten stage 4 pancreatic cancer. I cried when I got the news. Sat in my tiny studio apartment, 430 square feet of basic furniture and white walls, and sobbed with relief and joy. It had worked. The sacrifice had been worth it. My mother was going to live. They came home 2 weeks before Christmas. Mom looked thin and tired, but alive. Radiantly, miraculously alive. We had Christmas at my parents' house. Cameron brought his girlfriend Emma. We ate too much, laughed too hard, cried tears of gratitude that Mom was still with us. During dessert, Mom stood up, glass of sparkling cider in hand. "I want to say something," she began, her voice emotional. "4 months ago, I was told I had 6 months to live. Today, I'm cancer-free. And the only reason I'm standing here is because of Harper." Everyone looked at me. I felt my face flush. Harper sold her house. Her beautiful home that she'd worked so hard for. She gave up everything to pay for a treatment that might not even work. That kind of love, that kind of sacrifice. Mom's voice broke. "I will never be able to repay you. But I want you to know that I see it. I understand what you gave up. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret it." I hugged her, both of us crying. "I don't regret it. I never will." That night felt perfect. Like everything had been worth it. Like we'd won. I should have known it wouldn't last. 3 weeks later, in mid-January, my mother called and asked me to come to the house. "There's something I need to discuss with you and Cameron. Come over tonight if you can." I drove over after my shift at the hospital, still wearing scrubs, exhausted from a 12-hour day. Cameron was already there, sitting in the living room with our parents. "What's going on?" I asked, settling into the armchair. Mom and Dad exchanged a look. Then Mom pulled out a folder. "I've been thinking a lot about the future," she began. "About what would happen if the cancer comes back, or if something else happens. Your father and I have been updating our wills." "That's smart," I said. Estate planning after a cancer scare made sense. "We wanted to talk to you both about how we're distributing our assets." Mom opened the folder, pulled out documents. "The house is worth about $480,000. We have $190,000 in retirement accounts and savings. Life insurance policies. Altogether, about $720,000. Okay, Cameron said. We've decided to leave everything to Cameron. The room went silent. I stared at my mother, certain I'd misheard. What? We're leaving the house and all our assets to Cameron, Mom repeated, and her tone was matter-of-fact, like she was discussing dinner plans. You'll be listed as backup beneficiary in case something happens to Cameron, but primary inheritance goes to him. Why? The word came out sharper than I intended. Because you can afford it, Mom said simply. You're a nurse practitioner. You make good money. You're independent and capable. Cameron is still building his career, still establishing himself. He needs the support more than you do. I laughed. Actually laughed. Mom, I just sold my house. I'm living in a studio apartment. I have $40,000 to my name after spending everything I had on your treatment. Cameron has his career, his savings, his life completely intact. How exactly can I afford it more than him? You'll rebuild, she said, and there was an edge of impatience in her voice now. You're good with money. You'll save up again. But Cameron needs this foundation now. This is about being practical. Practical? I stood up. I gave you $220,000 of my own money I'd saved for a decade, money from selling my home, to save your life. And your response is to cut me out of the will because I can afford it? Harper, don't be dramatic, my father interjected. No one's cutting you out. You're still backup beneficiary. This is just about giving Cameron the stability he needs. Did Cameron sell his house for your treatment? I demanded. Did he give up everything he owned? You had a house to sell, Cameron said quietly, and I turned to look at him. He had the grace to look uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable enough to object. I didn't have that asset. Right. I had the asset. So I used it. And now I'm being punished for it. No one's punishing you, Mom said firmly. This isn't about punishment or reward. This is about practical estate planning based on who needs what. Cameron needs this more than you do. That's just reality. I stared at her, this woman I'd given up everything to save, and felt something fundamental crack inside me. I saved your life, I said quietly. I gave you $220,000 of my own money. I sold my house. I gave up my security, my future, my stability. And your response is to leave everything to Cameron because I'm the responsible one who can afford it. Harper, that's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? I'm living in a studio apartment working 12-hour shifts to rebuild what I spent saving you, and you're leaving everything to the son who didn't sacrifice anything. Tell me how that's fair. This is exactly the kind of reaction that makes us think Cameron needs the support more, Mom said, her voice cold now. You're being emotional and selfish. This should be about what's best for the family, not about keeping score. Keeping score? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm not keeping score. I'm pointing out that you're rewarding the child who did nothing while penalizing the one who gave up everything. We're not penalizing anyone, Dad said. We're making a decision based on who needs support. That's Cameron right now. Maybe in 10 years, that changes. But this is what makes sense now. I looked at Cameron. He wasn't objecting. Wasn't saying, actually, Harper deserves this more, or maybe we should split it fairly. He was just sitting there, accepting that he'd inherit everything because his sister was too capable to need it. This is your final decision? I asked Mom. Yes. And I'd appreciate if you'd respect it instead of making this difficult. I picked up my bag. I need to go. Harper, don't leave like this, Mom started. I'm not going to argue with you. You've made your decision. I just need to process it. I walked out of that house and drove back to my studio apartment. Sat on my second-hand couch in my 430 square foot space that I'd moved into after selling my home to save my mother's life. And I realized something, I'd been naive. I'd thought sacrifice and love would be recognized, valued, reciprocated. Instead, my sacrifice had made me the one who could afford it. I'd given everything to save her, and she'd rewarded me by giving everything to my brother. I didn't speak to my parents for 2 weeks after that meeting. Ignored their calls, their texts asking if I was ready to talk like adults about the situation. I wasn't ready. I was furious. But more than furious, I was done. See, what my family didn't know, what they'd never bothered to ask, was that selling my house hadn't just cost me money. It had cost me everything I'd planned. I'd been 3 months away from proposing to my girlfriend of 2 years, Rachel. We'd been planning our future together. The house was going to be ours. I'd been saving for a ring, for a wedding, for the life we wanted to build. When I'd sold the house to pay for Mom's treatment, Rachel had been supportive at first. "It's temporary," she'd said. "You'll rebuild. We'll rebuild together." But as the months wore on, as I moved into that studio apartment, as all our plans got pushed back indefinitely, the strain became too much. Rachel wanted stability. Wanted the future we'd been building toward. Wanted more than a 430 square foot apartment and a girlfriend who'd given away everything. She'd broken up with me in November. Gently, kindly, but firmly. "I can't wait indefinitely for our life to start," she'd said. "I'm sorry. I'd lost my house, my savings, my relationship, and my future plans. All to save my mother. And now she'd decided I could afford to be cut out of her estate." 3 weeks after the will conversation, I got an email from my mother's attorney. She'd formalized the changes. Everything to Cameron. Harper as backup beneficiary only. I forwarded it to my own attorney, a woman named Patricia Martinez who I'd known through work. "Is this legal?" I asked when we met. "Completely," Patricia said. "Your mother has the right to distribute her estate however she wants." "Is it fair?" "No." "Is it legal?" "Yes." "What are my options?" "Realistically, none. You can't contest a will based on it being unfair. You can only contest based on lack of capacity, undue influence, or fraud. None of those apply here." I sat in her office, feeling defeated. "So I just have to accept it." "Legally, yes. But Harper? You don't have to accept it personally." She leaned forward. "You gave your mother $220,000 and she's repaying you by cutting you out of her will. That's not just legally problematic in terms of fairness, it's morally bankrupt. You don't owe her anything more. Not your time, not your energy, not your emotional labor. She's my mother. She's someone who took your sacrifice and used it as evidence that you don't need support. That's not how family should work." I thought about that for a long time after leaving Patricia's office. About what I owed my mother. About what family meant. And I made a decision. I stopped going to family dinners. When Mom called, I kept conversations brief and surface level. When Cameron texted asking why I was being distant, I didn't respond. My mother noticed. Of course she noticed. She showed up at my apartment one Sunday morning, unannounced. I opened the door to find her standing there with a container of homemade soup. "Can I come in?" she asked. I stepped aside. She entered, looking around at my tiny studio, the pull-out couch, the 2-burner stove, the bathroom barely big enough to turn around in. "Harper, this is..." She trailed off. "Small?" "Yeah. It's what I can afford after selling my house." She set the soup on my counter. "You've been avoiding me." "I've been busy with work." "Don't lie to me. You're upset about the will." I laughed bitterly. "Upset doesn't quite cover it, Mom. I thought you'd have processed this by now." "It's been a month." "Processed? How exactly should I process the fact that I gave you $220,000 to save your life and you responded by cutting me out of your estate?" "I didn't cut you out. You're backup beneficiary. Which means I get nothing unless Cameron dies first." That's the definition of being cut out. This is about practical need. No, I interrupted. This is about you punishing me for being responsible. You're rewarding Cameron for not sacrificing anything by giving him everything. And you're penalizing me for sacrificing everything by giving me nothing. That's not what this is. Then what is it? Explain it to me. Because from where I'm standing, I sold my house and gave you my life savings, and your response was to decide I don't deserve inheritance because I'm capable. Mom's face hardened. You're being selfish. This should be about what's best for the family. What's best for the family? Mom, I gave up everything for this family. My house, my savings, my relationship. Yes, Rachel left me because I couldn't provide the stable future we'd been building toward. I lost all of that to save you. And somehow I'm the selfish one? She looked genuinely surprised. Rachel left you? In November. Because I'd sold the house we were going to share, spent all the money we were going to use for our future, and moved into a studio apartment with no timeline for rebuilding. She wanted stability. I couldn't give it to her anymore because I'd given everything to you. I didn't know. You didn't ask. You just assumed I'd be fine because I'm capable. You took my sacrifice as evidence that I didn't need anything from you. Harper, I'm sorry about Rachel, but that doesn't change. Doesn't change what? That you think I don't deserve to inherit anything because I'm good at surviving hardship? That my reward for saving your life is being told I can afford to be cut out? Stop saying I cut you out. Then what do you call leaving everything to Cameron while I get nothing? We stared at each other, the gap between us wider than it had ever been. I think you should leave, I said finally. Harper. Please leave. I can't do this right now. She left, taking her soup with her. 2 months later, I got a call from Cameron. His voice was careful, measured. Harper, I wanted to talk to you about the will situation. What about it? I've been thinking, maybe Mom and Dad should reconsider. Maybe we should split things evenly. I waited. I mean, you did a lot for Mom. Sold your house and everything. It doesn't seem right that you're not getting anything. Why the sudden change of heart? He hesitated. Emma and I have been talking about it. She thinks it's unfair. And honestly, I'm starting to agree. Let me ask you something, Cameron. When Mom first announced her decision in January, did you think it was unfair then? Silence. Did you speak up? Did you say, actually, Harper should get half since she paid for the treatment? Or did you just sit there and accept that you'd inherit everything? I was trying to respect Mom's decision. You were protecting your inheritance. And now, 6 months later, after your girlfriend pointed out how bad it looks, you're suddenly developing a conscience. That's not fair. Fair? You've gotten a $720,000 inheritance that I paid for, and I'm the one being unfair? You're being really hostile right now. I'm being honest. There's a difference. I'm trying to fix this. No, you're trying to feel better about benefiting from my sacrifice. If you really wanted to fix it, you could offer to split your inheritance with me once you receive it. You could put that in writing right now. But you won't, will you? He didn't answer. That's what I thought. Don't call me pretending to care about fairness when what you actually care about is not looking like the bad guy. I hung up. 1 year after I sold my house, I'd rebuilt my savings to $78,000. It had taken working extra shifts, picking up overtime, living as frugally as possible in my studio apartment. I was nowhere close to buying another house, but I was surviving. My relationship with my family was effectively over. I saw my parents maybe once every 2 months, conversations stilted and surface level. Cameron had stopped trying to talk to me about the will. Then, in August, 14 months after her remission, Mom's routine scan showed something suspicious. A spot on her liver. Biopsy confirmed, the cancer was back. Not pancreatic this time. Liver cancer. Stage 3. Treatable, but aggressive. The oncologist recommended immediate surgery followed by chemotherapy. Cost: $180,000 not covered by insurance. Dad called me with the news. His voice was shaking. We don't have the money, Harper. We spent everything on the first treatment. And now? What about Cameron's inheritance? I asked coldly. That's not, we can't ask him to give up his future. But you could ask me to give up mine? Harper, please. Your mother is dying. And what would you like me to do about it? I don't have $180,000. I have $78,000 that I've spent the past year rebuilding after spending everything on her first treatment. The treatment she repaid by cutting me out of her will. You're really going to bring that up now? You're really going to ask me for more money after what you did? She's your mother. And I'm her daughter. The one she decided doesn't deserve inheritance because I'm capable. The capable one who can afford to be cut out. Remember? Harper, I'm begging you. Beg Cameron. He's the one getting everything. Let him sell something. Let him sacrifice. I'm done. I hung up. My mother died 6 weeks later. The cancer moved fast, aggressive and merciless. They couldn't afford the treatment that might have saved her. She died in hospice, morphine keeping her comfortable as her body shut down. I went to see her 2 days before she died. She was barely conscious, but she opened her eyes when I entered the room. Harper, she whispered. I'm here. I'm sorry. About the will. About everything. I was wrong. Yes, you were. Please forgive me. I thought about it. About forgiveness. About whether someone who took everything and gave nothing deserved to die with a clear conscience. I don't know if I can, I said honestly. You took my sacrifice and used it to justify cutting me out. You taught me that loving you, saving you, giving up everything for you, that made me the one who didn't deserve anything back. I don't know how to forgive that. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I love you. I know. But love without respect is just words. She died the next morning. I didn't cry. At the funeral, family members approached me with sympathy and confusion. You were so close, they said. This must be devastating. I didn't explain. Didn't tell them about the will, about being cut out, about the year of silence and distance. I just accepted their condolences and left. 3 weeks later, the will was read. Everything to Cameron, as planned. The house, the retirement accounts, the life insurance. $720,000. Cameron looked uncomfortable as the attorney read it aloud. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I want you to know, he said afterward, I plan to share some of this with you. It's not right that you get nothing. Keep it, I said. You earned it by not sacrificing anything. Harper. I mean it. That inheritance? I paid for it. I gave Mom $220,000 that extended her life by 14 months. 14 months she used to make sure you got everything and I got nothing. So enjoy it. You've earned it through inaction. I walked out of that attorney's office and never looked back. 2 years after selling my house, I'd rebuilt my savings to $95,000. Started dating again. Found a man named James who valued sacrifice and understood loss. We talked about buying a house together, building something new. 3 years later, I bought a townhouse. Smaller than my first house, but mine. James and I moved in together, started planning a wedding, built the life I'd lost when I'd sold everything for my mother. Cameron tried to reach out occasionally. Guilt-ridden messages about splitting the inheritance and making things right. I never responded. Because here's the truth, my mother taught me that sacrifice makes you the person who doesn't deserve reward. That giving everything makes you the one who can afford to be cut out. I'll never forget that lesson. And I'll never let it happen again. I sold my house to save her life. She repaid me by giving everything to my brother. And in doing so, she lost a daughter. Not to death. To the knowledge that love without respect is meaningless. That sacrifice without acknowledgement is exploitation. That being capable doesn't mean you don't deserve recognition. She died thinking I'd forgive her because I'm the understanding one. The capable one. The one who could afford to let it go. She was wrong. Some betrayals are too deep to forgive. Some sacrifices are too great to be dismissed. And sometimes, the cost of taking someone for granted is losing them forever, even when they're standing right there at your funeral, refusing to cry.